What's up, guys? This is Jack from KUHoopsTalk, engaging in our first ever KUHoopsTalk. We are just a couple weeks away from the 2021-22 season where we open against Michigan State in New York. And it is a great day to start an incredibly niche YouTube channel. But for those of you who are here, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Here's a little rundown. This podcast style video will not be our usual format. This will be a once every couple months type video where I will go into as much depth as I can possibly bore you with. If you want more structural content, please follow me at KUHoopsTalk on Instagram. There I will be doing a weekly minute show where I will cover all things recent on KU basketball as well as our boys playing in the pros right now. Now, I truthfully don't know how often I will be posting on this channel, but I will always stay up to date on my Instagram, so please go give me a follow over there if you haven't already. Now, we have a lot to get into, so let's talk KU hoops. That's what we do, right? So I was told that my background sucks, and after hours of ugly crying, I went out and found a Jayhawk, killed it, and rubbed its innards on my walls. With that being said, I'm not wearing this shit. We're going to start this with a squad summary. And the player I'm going to be starting out with is the preseason Big 12 Player of the Year, Remy Martin. The man with a champagne name, Remy Martin is a 6-foot guard from Arizona State, where he had a reputation of sticking his entire ass in the face of KU and still dominate. As a freshman, Remy put up 21 points against us at Allen Fieldhouse on an unranked Arizona State team while we were playing as the number 4 team in the country. And by the way, he beat us on that team. Devontae Graham, Udoka Azubuike, that team, yeah, he did that. The very next year, as a sophomore, he put up 10 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists in a win against us again. Since that season, Remy has averaged 19.1 points a game in the last 2 years. The man is a ridiculously quick and hefty point guard who has flashes of Frank Mason in him. He shoots the ball very well and is very hard to stay in front of. It's hard to tell how he'll adjust against Big 12 competition, but he's made first team All Pac-12 2 years in a row, so while it will be an adjustment, it hopefully will not be as critical as some of our other incoming players. Best case scenario for Remy is he mimics the likes of Frank Mason, becomes first team All-American, and leads us to a deep tournament run. In the worst case, Remy can't adjust to the KU system. Now, I don't expect Remy to shit the bed, but we have a lot of good point guards on this team and a lot of competition coming his way. Even if he can't adjust to the system, I still see him putting up average numbers like 7 points per game, 2 assists per game. The nightmare scenario is where Remy just can never get in a rhythm. Can't play under the big lights and just doesn't end up ever starting for us. Luckily, in that nightmare scenario, I am at least comfortable with letting one of our 3 very good point guards lead our team's offense, whether that's Dajuan, Joseph, or Bobby. We are so deep, but we saw what happened last year. We're returning 4 of our starters, and last year that assortment did not work in a championship fashion. It's easy to look at last season and blame it on the lack of a point guard. But what happens when we can't find a player as good as Marcus Garrett to play point guard? Marcus Garrett is in the NBA right now. He was not a scrub. What happens when Remy just doesn't work out? What happens when Joseph is too short? What if this team turns out just like last season? We have the mold, but fitting it is a whole other project. We all know what we want this team to do. I think they will fit that mold just fine. I'm just pointing out the other possibilities for this season. David McCormack. You know what he is. Last season, he started off rough. He averaged 10 points per game through non-conference play, but there were a lot of flaws throughout his game. I told everyone, I told all of you, lay off Dave, he's new to his role. And then once Big 12 play rolled around, he was arguably the best center in the conference. He ended the season averaging 13.4 points per game and 6.1 rebounds per game. This year, he is not experiencing anything new. He's got to come out with a killer mentality from the jump. He needs to bully those centers in the paint. He's already on the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Center of the Year Award watch list, but I think David is a sleeper candidate for All-American honors. While he was great last year, there are clearly attributes that could be improved upon. Starting with this thing. His hands sucked. He is way too big to be getting beat out for rebounds the way he did.
I'm about to shit talk David McCormack, and like he could literally kill me with one hand.
Easily. He was way too slow and got his ass handed to him in multiple games from players that he should have been able to shut down. In his sophomore debut of Late Night at the Fog, David hit back-to-back threes, and I've never seen him so hyped. Bill Self immediately told him that he would never be doing that in a game. It actually broke. He's still smiling though.
Oh, Bill, you poor baby.
Oh God.
What are you looking at, Bill?
So anyways, I would really like to see David McCormack shooting the ball more. Throw up a few shots early in the season against Stony Brook or Tarleton. Gauge the confidence on it. McCormack will become one of the biggest threats in the NCAA and an NBA prospect if you could add that aspect to his game. Also, it's going to clear out the lane for Remy. He's going to need room to work with. This comparison may be a little out there, but I see a lot of Thomas Robinson and David McCormack.
Hi, Thomas.
He can't rebound as well, he's not as athletic, but I can definitely see him putting up offensive numbers like T-Rob did. And he's going to have to if he wants to go pro in America.
Ochai Agbaji.
We also know exactly what Ochai is. Led the team in scoring last year, had the game-winning bucket in our win against Texas Tech, and easily the best shooter on the squad. Ochai tested out the NBA waters this offseason. He played pretty average in the scrimmages, but he tested outstandingly in the measurements. The trio of Ochai, David, and Remy will probably be the captain combo. Ochai has something to prove this year. He does not have to average a bunch more points per game to prove that he's NBA ready, but he does have to show that his versatility can match his athleticism. Last season, Ochai was easily one of our best defensive players.
But I mean, damn, man, at least once a game he would have a mental lapse where you would be pulling your hair out.
Consistency was occasionally an issue. It hurt because he seemed to make 80% of his shots from mid-range or further, and if the shots weren't falling, it was almost guaranteed that he was going to finish the game with single digits. When Ochai declared, I thought there was a good chance he stays in the NBA draft, but a more likely chance that he'd return. My main reasoning for that is his inability to drive and score the basketball. Ochai is way too athletic to struggle as much as he does finishing at the basket. Now, every single player on our roster can improve in that regard, but Ochai has the most riding on his improvement right now. He has to be 30 to 40% better on that if he wants to be drafted. This season prediction, I think Ochai averages about the same amount he did last year. I think he improves just as much as he has every year. But Remy and our bench are going to play well enough that Ochai will lose some of his opportunities. However, he went up 4 points per game from freshman to sophomore year and sophomore to junior year. It'd be awesome to see him do that again this year. Jalen Wilson. Jalen was one of the few very bright spots on our team last season. I admittedly came in expecting him to average 5 points per game off the bench, and he immediately showed that he was so much better than that. Wilson ended up averaging 11.8 points per game, 8 rebounds a game, 2.2 assists per game on 42% shooting. Just really balled out, had a game-winning shot against Creighton, which other than Baylor was the best game of the season. He also had a game-saving block against Texas Tech. So not only is he a very efficient, scrappy offensive threat, but he has the ability to lock down on defense too. Jalen is so important to this team, mainly because he is a very rare guy to find. He essentially works as a Jamari Traylor who has a dozen more methods of scoring. I truly think he has the best chance of anyone on our roster of having a long NBA career. He has the size, has the inside-outside ability, his defense could use some fine-tuning, but Jalen is easily the most underrated player on our team. I pray to God he stays another year after this one, but he will certainly be in talks with NBA teams for the rest of his collegiate career. This year, stating the obvious, Jalen is going to be better. As crazy as this is, he is one of 5 or 6 players who have a legitimate shot to be the best player on the best team in the country. Now, don't get this idea that Jalen can go out and average significantly more points per game. I think it's more likely he averages 1 or 2 more points per game. It's also possible that he can drop a few points per game this year. He'll still show why he's an NBA player, but sometimes other players will have the hot hand, and other times he will take the reins. Either way, Jalen is something to be very excited about, and he's a guy that will be a huge advantage for us.
Christian Braun.
Christian Braun took way too much heat this year. Yes, the guy had spurts where he couldn't find the distance from 3. Let's remember, this guy was 19 years old last season. He just turned 20. Of course, a 19-year-old hometown starter from Kansas is going to be inconsistent every once in a while. But as a 19-year-old, he had 14 games where he scored double digits. This includes a 30-point game in the second start of his career. This includes a 22-point game against the number 7 team in the country. Last season was a great year for Christian, and this year is going to be even better.
I'm going to get a little more in-depth because people coming at Braun last year really pissed me off.
He shot 38% from the field and 34% from 3, and that's not great. Did you watch our team last year? There was no offensive flow. There was no driving ability. Christian was having to take ill-advised shots at the end of the shot clock at least once or twice per game, and it fucked up his shooting percentage. That is not his fault. Now, Christian's driving, it was terrible. It seemed that every time he got to the basket, he would jump up in the air and not really know what to do with the ball. He would make some points off it, but most of them turned into kickouts, missed layups, or turnovers. We can't have that this year. Even without that reliable ability in his tool belt, Christian still managed to average just under 10 points per game this year. This next season, I think he stays right about there. He's got time to take the driver's seat on this team, but this year it's going to be all about getting as many weapons as we possibly can. Christian is not a guy that needs to be incredible every game. He needs to be smart, consistent on offense, get better and quicker on defense, and go get buckets throughout the game. Let's get to another new guy, Joseph Yesufu. He is a point guard who spent his first 2 seasons at Drake, and he was one of the major gets of the transfer portal. Freshman year at Drake, he averaged 3.8 points per game in 7.1 minutes. His sophomore season was a breakout year that you don't see at KU. He went off for 12.8 points per game on 44% shooting, but his real breakout came at the end of last season. The guy averaged 23.2 points per game in his final 9 games. That's including a back-to-back 32 and 36 point games against Evansville. He also scored 26 points against USC in the first round of the NCAA tournament. This would have made him our leading scorer for that game. The main reason for his breakout season was the development of a jump shot. He's one of the guys who's been working out with 90-10 training. Watching him, he is an athletic masterpiece. He is great on and off the ball. He's 6 feet tall and he dunks like he's Kelly Oubre. I'm not entirely sure how effective he'll be on the defensive end, but seeing his quickness, I'm assuming he'll be pretty solid, at least with guys his size. I think Yesufu is going to be really good, and ideally will be handed the keys to the program after Remy leaves. My biggest concern is experience. We've seen players at 6 foot come through and thrive, but it's quite literally never happened in the transfer portal for us. And all of those guys were vets. Yesufu has next to 0 starting experience in D1 basketball, and now he's coming to one of the best conferences in the country. That is a hell of a lot to get adjusted to. To be honest, I truly don't know what to expect from Joseph this year. I think he is going to be fantastic, but I am far from convinced that Joseph will come to Kansas without missing a beat. We'll talk more about his role this year once we've seen him on the court. Next on the summary is probably the most intriguing guy we got in the transfer portal. That is Jalen Coleman-Lands. If you don't know who Jalen is, he's a transfer from Iowa State, but there's a lot more to his story, so let's go through it for a sec. Jalen Coleman-Lands comes from Indianapolis, where he was the number 34 overall recruit in the country in the 2015 class. And I want to take a minute just to go over some of the other guys that were in that class because it's crazy. Number 1 overall recruit, Ben Simmons. Number 3 overall recruit, Brandon Ingram. Number 4 recruit, Jalen Braun. Number 7, Sheck Diallo. Number 10, Malik Newman. Number 14, Dwayne Bacon. 16, Jalen Brunson, who was the National Player of the Year. Number 19 is PJ Dozier. He's with the Nuggets right now. Number 20, Thomas Bryant. 21, Carlton Bragg. Number 24, Luke Kennard. 26, Dedrick Lawson. Number 34, Jalen Coleman-Lands. Number 43, Donovan Mitchell. Right after him at 44, KJ Lawson. Number 49, DeJounte Murray. He's with the Spurs right now. And number 79 is Shake Milton, who's playing for the Sixers. But we can ignore all those rankings right now and focus on one important thing. Of all 100 players, Jalen is the only one still playing college basketball. We have the oldest player in all of the Power 5 conferences. So how did he get here? Well, Jalen selected Illinois out of high school. His freshman year, he lived up to the hype, starting 24 of 34 games and averaging 10.3 points per game on 42% shooting from 3. The following year, he returned to Illinois for his sophomore season, where he was looking to break out but instead kind of fell flat. He shot noticeably worse and finished the season averaging just over 8 points per game. Following this, he elected to transfer to DePaul, where he had to sit out a year because the transfer portal actually used to have consequences. The next year, he averaged 9.6 points per game, but only checked into 9 games on account of an injury. He then came back to DePaul for the 19-20 season, where he started all 32 games and averaged 11.1 points, 2.7 rebounds, and 1.2 assists per game. He was granted immediate eligibility at Iowa State as a graduate transfer after seeing out the 2017-18 season and being limited to just 9 games in the 2018-19 season due to his injury. At Iowa State, where we saw him twice, he started 22 out of 23 games and was the Cyclones' second best player. He averaged 14.3 points, 3.9 rebounds, and shot a team best 39.5% from 3. He played against Kansas twice, and he was by far the most effective in both games, scoring 20 in back-to-back showdowns. This is where he caught the eye of Bill Self. The rest is history in the making. Now, Jalen is coming into his 7th year of college, where he just turned 25 and will be looking to steal the starting spot. There are so many ways this thing could go for Jalen next year. He could average 3 points per game. He could average 13. Seeing his shooting ability, I'm expecting like 5 points per game off the bench from him. When you look through KU's history, we don't have a bunch of guys who are averaging more than 5 points per game off the bench. Now, this will obviously go up if he breaks into a starting spot, but most of the time, guys just don't average 7 to 8 points per game off the bench. You just don't see it. I think Jalen will play a pivotal Isaiah Moss type role in this lineup. And this guy going on 30, he's going to be a big boost mentally. Cam Martin. Cam Martin comes from Yukon, Oklahoma, where he dominated the high school game and eventually went to play at Jacksonville State University. His freshman year there, he averaged 4.1 points and 2.6 rebounds. After this not dismal but maybe forgettable season, he transferred to Missouri Southern State, where he became one of the best players in their history. His stat lines were ridiculous. As a sophomore, 22.5 points per game, 9.7 rebounds per game, including a game where he shot 9 of 10 from 3 and finished with 46 points against Washburn. Junior year, somehow better, 24.1 points per game, 9.2 rebounds per game. Senior year, 25 points per game, 9.1 rebounds per game, including a game against Missouri Western where he scored 54 points. This earned him 2 D2 All-American bids. So, I think it's pretty obvious Cam Martin belongs in D1 basketball. The question is, can he be effective enough to hold his own in the Big 12? Cam Martin is listed at 6'9", 240 pounds. Mitch Lightfoot is 6'9", 225 pounds and just a little bit more athletic. Cam Martin's major advantage over Mitch is that he can shoot the 3 ball very well. Better than maybe anyone we've had at his size since Perry Ellis or like Dedrick Lawson. This is something I cannot ignore and I will not ignore. I think Cam Martin is a beast and a threat. My concern is, based on the tape I've seen, Cam absolutely dominated the D2 game because he was significantly bigger than anyone else on the floor. He will not have that luxury this year. Mitch Lightfoot won't either, but this is his 6th year with the Jayhawks after having 3 where he has heavily contributed to our rotation. In order for Cam to get significant minutes, he's going to have to outplay Mitch Lightfoot and Zachary Clemence. That is not an easy task to ask someone who has next to no D1 experience, let alone Power 5 conference experience. I raise these concerns because when it comes to games where our guys need to play well, I'm talking the Baylor games, the Texas games, the Kentucky games, we need our guys playing at an NBA level because that's who our opponents are going to be. It's just a hell of a task to ask a guy who's been playing D2 for the last few years to match the skill level and athleticism of guys who are going to be in the NBA next year. Cam is going to dominate in our exhibition games, but when it comes to the big time matchups, his best chance of playing is going to be effective 3-point shooting. My prediction for Cam is a low of 2 points per game and a high of 7 points per game. It's just so hard to tell how he'll fit in on the defensive side and how the pressure will affect his shot on offense. I'm hoping he can be the 3-point shooting big man we're all looking for, but at the same time, I'm not going to put ridiculous expectations on the man. Let's get back to our vets. Dajuan Harris. If you're watching this, you know who and what Dajuan is. However, I don't think any of us really know what he's going to be this year. Last year, Dajuan averaged 2.4 points per game, 2.2 assists per game, 1.1 rebound, and a steal. Dajuan is easily one of the best defenders I've ever seen at his size. He's really quick and kind of has small arms, which, you know, I relate to, and it kind of allows him to swipe at balls in a way that bulky guys can't. He gets into crevices and really just gives some new perspective for offensive powerhouses. Last year, he earned Surprise Player of the Year from me, and if he wants to get minutes this year, he's got to keep the surprises coming because damn does he have some competition. His stat line certainly wasn't what we expect from a guy averaging 16 minutes a game, and what makes it more interesting is his percentages. Last season, Dajuan shot the ball 56 times and had a team high 48.2 field goal percentage. He only got to the free throw line 6 times, but shot a team high 80%. And Dajuan has only shot 14 3-pointers in his collegiate career, but he shot a team high 64.3% last year. Dajuan is not a bad or unproductive offensive player, he's just a protective offensive player. He wants to give his team the best opportunity to score on every possession. Dajuan's key to improvement this year is just being aggressive. And I was saying this before Coach Self came out and said all these great things about Dajuan. Self recently said no matter what, he'll play the same minutes, I think. Bill has always been very high on Dajuan. And until Harris starts playing like shit, he's gonna get his minutes. Small guys always get calls more consistently. If he can break down the defense and throw his body into a defender, I think he can go to the line at least once a game. And if he manages to shoot well from the line, maybe not 80% like last year, his numbers will immediately deserve minutes. I don't know if Dajuan is ever going to be a double-digit type scorer, and he's probably never going to be a big body, but he can be a fantastic complement to this team and earn a rotation spot. Mitch Lightfoot. I am not even going to talk about Mitch because he's been here since I was in preschool. He's entering his 6th year after coming off a season where he was just Mitch Lightfoot, doing Mitch Lightfoot things, and being what Mitch Lightfoot is. If you hate Mitch Lightfoot, go fuck yourself, because nobody's ever gonna forget him. He is one of 2 remaining players from our 2018 Final Four team, and he's going to bring great leadership to the bench. I don't know if Mitch will get a rotation spot this year, or if his minutes will be eaten up by Cam. As much as I love Mitch, and I love what he does and the energy he brings, I think it's blatantly obvious that we play better with a big man coming off the bench with more of a skill set than Mitch currently has. Either way, Mitch is going down in history as one of the greatest floor burn players we have ever had at KU. Jayhawk Nation, enjoy having his fucking face around for one more year because we're all gonna miss it. Let's talk about some freshmen. Zachary Clemence. Zach was our first commit of the 2021 class, and he ended up being our highest rated recruit at number 34 in the country as well. Clemence is a 6'10", 221-pound center from San Antonio. He previously attended Sunrise Christian Academy, where his team was the national champion runner-up. Last season at SCA, he averaged 10.5 points per game, 5 rebounds, and shot 47% from the field. Zach's biggest asset is his shooting. He's very slim, but a 6'10" guy with handles and the ability to shoot the ball, that's the type of player everyone wants. It's kind of hard to tell right now how he's going to adjust to the college game, but as long as he can put the ball in the hoop, we will get him minutes. From what I've seen, Zach is very skilled in the environments he's comfortable with, but I'll be honest, I've never seen him guard a guy the size of David McCormack, so I don't know what the plan is for him defensively and rotationally. Either way, I do think his time to shine at KU will come later in his career. I think we're going to find him minutes, and I think he's going to be great, but I don't think this is going to be his year, so to say. This year, I think he sees minutes kind of spread out while we figure out what our rotation is going to be. If I had to take a guess, I'd say 3 points per game, someone like 7 or 8 minutes a game. KJ Adams Jr. KJ was the second commit of our 2021 class. He is a 4-star, 6'7", 220-pound forward from Westlake High School in Texas. He had an impressive year last season. He had 25 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 4.1 assists on a team that went 30-2 and finished as state champion runner-ups. This offseason, he actually won the American Family Insurance dunk contest with ridiculous athleticism. All in all, this man has the potential to be spectacular for Kansas. I'll be honest in saying that I am concerned about him finding playing time as well. He's been called unguardable, but physically he kind of looks like a raw version of Ochai Agbaji, but his game is based a lot more in the paint than outside. A guy this highly recruited has to get minutes. He's recently been seen working out with Blake Griffin. I have no f***ing idea how he scored that, but it probably doesn't hurt him and what he's doing. This season, I see KJ coming off the bench, and if he plays better than several guys, he could break into the 10-15 minutes per game range. I sincerely hope he gets those minutes and sticks around because he is a guy we want. Next up is Bobby Pettiford. Bobby is a 6'1", 170-pound point guard from North Carolina, and he was ranked number 90 in the 2021 recruiting class. As everyone watching this should know, we have a great history of bringing in point guards from North Carolina. From what I've seen of his highlights, he has a lot of Frank in him, I'll be honest. He comes in with a lot more exposure than Frank had, and he has a lot of the same ratings. And he has a very similar driving game to what Frank had in high school. I'm not saying he has the potential to be Frank Mason yet, but when you watch the highlights, it's hard to not see the similarities. Bobby's game is a lot of drive and score. He is very good at getting around the defense, and he can pull it from 3 as well. He's very quick, has impressive hops, and absolutely dominates the high school game. However, he is coming in at number 4 on the point guard depth chart, so there's no guarantee that we're going to find him minutes. Best case scenario for Bobby, he jumps up to 2nd on that depth chart and finds his way into a rotation spot where he'll average 5 points per game. I have no objections to this occurring, but the point guard position is more competitive now than we've seen in a long time at Kansas. There are no promises for Joe, there are no promises for Dajuan, there are no promises for Bobby. What the is up, Kyle Cuffe Jr.? I don't know, because you're too young to play for Kansas. Kyle is a 6'2", 180-pound combo guard who forewent his senior year of high school to play with KU this year. He only got to play 2 games last year because of COVID, but he averaged 25 points per game in that very short season. This really concerns me because this essentially means the guy's played 2 years of high school basketball. He's dominated those years, but it really does put him at a disadvantage on this very old lineup. I've watched Kyle play online, and good God, the kid is an athlete. He is extremely really quick and has serious NBA potential if he can improve his technical skills. Not that they are bad by any means, but I do believe his athleticism played a key role in the amount of success he had in high school. He is a year younger than anyone else on the team, so it will probably play a role in his minutes. Overall, Kyle's in the same boat as Bobby, a fantastic player that is just buried on the depth chart. He could very well break out and end up as a rotation guy, but I think most of us are expecting people higher on that depth chart to be absorbing most of those minutes. I really hope he sticks around if that does happen, but I don't expect more than 3 points per game from him as a freshman. I would be very happy if I was proved wrong, but it does seem like he's the kind of guy who may pull the short straw this year. He's one of a couple guys on our team that could end up redshirting. I don't really understand why he would redshirt if he could have been playing his senior year of high school, but hey man, I mean, I'd skip my senior year of high school if it meant playing for Bill Self. Let's do a quick summary of our walk-ons and then we'll wrap this up. We all know Chris Teahan, the sexiest redhead mullet-wearing motherfucker Jayhawk Nation has ever seen. He will be entering his actual final year at Kansas, and hopefully we get to see him throw in some of the wettest 3 balls of his career. We also have Michael Jankovich returning, and dude, he's a good basketball player. Not good enough to get minutes, but I mean, he's a 6'5", 190-pound guard that always looks comfortable when we put him in. He'll be a junior this year, but he also gets an extra year of eligibility if he wants it. In terms of newcomers, we have Dillon Wilhite. Now, something absolutely monstrous would have to occur for Dillon to get minutes this year, but he's 6'9". He's 240 pounds. He averaged 18 and 12 as a senior. He kind of strikes me as the guy who may take the Garrett the Winster route. By that, I mean walk on and ride the bench for your freshman year, and then at some point in your career, transfer and actually go play basketball. Finally, we have Charlie McCarthy. He is a 6'2", 180-pound guard from California. Charlie is the son of KU alumni Kent McCarthy. We don't really know much about Charlie right now, but I know we're gonna love him. Well, this concludes our player breakdown and squad summary. I've had a very fun time doing this, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Never thought I'd be on the other side of this, but please give me a like and a subscription. Also, if you haven't already, go check me out on Instagram at KUHoopsTalk. We will see you guys next time. Enjoy a great season and rock chalk.